Jagrut. If you spend enough time sitting inside all day, every moment, while you go about your business, maintaining your seat of awareness, you will come to see that everything is Shakti. Everything is Shakti, energy. And just as pots, plates, cups, they're all clay, just clay of different shapes. All that goes on inside of you is Shakti, is the dance of Shakti. But in order to see this, you have to be conscious. And that's true of all things. You can't see if you're not conscious, no matter what's going on around you. And if you are conscious, you can't help but see, because that's what consciousness does. So this talk, we're going to spend only 2 minutes on how to get conscious. And then we're going to talk about what you see when you are conscious. How do you get conscious? You take a very, very deep breath, and then you let it out. You take another breath in, and you let it out, and you notice that you're breathing. And then just keep noticing that you're breathing. At first, you will breathe. Then you will watch breathing. You don't have to breathe. Body knows how to breathe. Pretty amazing. It breathes all the time. You don't have to do anything about it. But if you want, you can use your breath like mala beads. If you watch your breath, you will become seated in the self. Now you see why I won't teach techniques. Because there are no techniques that are higher than the natural state of things. But since no one will do the natural state of things, they want more entertaining things to do that maybe they'll do, and so they want these weird techniques. If you watch your breath, that's all. Just watch your breath. It will make you conscious, totally conscious. Why? Because your breath is always going in and out. The problem is you're not watching it. You're not aware of it. If you were to become aware of every single breath that goes in and out, you would be a conscious being. You would be seated in a persistent state of conscious awareness. Should you choose to move that awareness to something else, you can do whatever you want. The point is, right now, you're not a conscious being. What are you? You are scattered. The consciousness is always there, but the there is all over the place. So for a moment, the consciousness is there, but it's on this thought, then it's on that thought, then it's on this lady, then it's on that man, then it's on that bug, then it's on this, then it's on that, then it's on this noise, then it's back on that thought, then it's on that thought, then it's on the breath, only for a billionth of a second, because it jumped for a second or something, right? And this goes on all day. It just jumps around like a jumping bean. Why? Why does consciousness jump around like a jumping bean? I'm almost used up my 2 minutes. It's easy why. Your consciousness will go to that which distracts it. Doesn't it? Doesn't your consciousness go to that which distracts it? If I'm talking to you and there's a big boom outside, you may listen to me. You're out there with the boom. If I'm talking to you and a roach goes across the middle of the floor, big one, no Mick. He's gone. No breath, no nothing, just roach. All right? It's so easy to see. It's so stupid that you even have to talk about it. You are conscious. You are always conscious. How you like that? I used to tell jokes that even in the cartoons, when you get knocked unconscious, you hear birds and see stars. Right? You are always conscious. That's what you are. You're consciousness. There ain't no turning off that light. You are conscious at all times. What about when I'm asleep? You're conscious of dreams. What about in deep sleep? Patanjali answers that. I don't have to answer that. He says when you go deep enough into sleep to where there is no more any vrittis or vibrations or manifestations of the mind for you to be conscious of, and the entire psyche is not making any vibrations or anything, then you are conscious of nothing. But you are still conscious. And you are aware that you are conscious of nothing. You are aware you had a good night's sleep. And you like that place. You want to go back, don't you? How would you know you want to go back if you don't even know you're there? You do know you're there. So your consciousness, that awareness of being, hello, I'm here, is always there. That's it. It's a light, never gets shut off. The question is what you're conscious of. Well, until you're a willfully centered conscious being, you are conscious of that which distracts your consciousness the most. Better smile. That's what you're conscious of. The emotion, the thought, the outside object, whatever it is that at a given moment interests or distracts, I like distracts better, distracts that consciousness the most, that's where that consciousness is going. You just see it when it's distracted from that which is distracting you, and you say, I got distracted. You're always distracted from the self. So you're sitting there trying to think, then you get distracted. Why? Somebody walked by, something happened, I got distracted. I couldn't do that, right? If you're a meditator, if you're a deep being, and you're in the seat of self, or you're watching the breath, that's what I like. Let's go back to that. You're watching the breath. Did you watch every single breath today? No. Why? I got distracted. Didn't you? Distracted by what? Distracted by your thoughts of where you want to eat, distracted by where you're going to go, distracted by emotions, distracted by that which you normally don't call distracted. It's what you normally get distracted from. Okay, you have this normal set of patterns that you're hanging out with all the time that are distracting you all over the place, distracting you from centered self. But they are your normal scattered state of being. It just jumps from one thing to the next and goes over here, kind of stays corralled a little bit, kind of goes from here to there, and then jump over there, and then things outside, and you're back inside, you have no idea what a ping pong ball your consciousness is all day, because you're just totally used to it. Until you become a centered being and start to watch it happen, you don't have any idea. But you know that you got distracted from that. Okay, something happened that distracted you from what you were thinking about or feeling or some stuff like that. So consciousness is always conscious. The issue is what object of consciousness is distracting at any given moment, because it changes constantly. If you should choose to do this amazingly complex technique of noticing that your breath goes in and out free of charge by itself, there don't have to be a Raksha beads, you don't have to go to India, you don't have to do anything, nobody has to bless the thing. It's already been blessed, it goes in and out. So you have the ultimate blessing going on. The breath is going in and the breath is coming out, and your chest moves and your stomach moves, and it's a big thing, right? You ever hear a child sleep, even a baby? Like, it's a big thing going on in there when those lungs go in and out and all kinds of stuff goes on, all right? Watch everyone. I'm serious. You think you can't? You could go about your entire life and do every single thing you're doing and watch every single breath that comes in and out. You live your everyday life. You do every single thing that you're doing. You just become more conscious. You just become more conscious. The breath is going on in and out anyways. Just be aware of it. If you do that, you will see that you are distracted from that constantly. That your consciousness just goes all over the place with the slightest thought, the slightest feeling, the slightest something. Why? Because the thing that distracted you was more important to you than watching that breath. It's as simple as that. Otherwise, it wouldn't happen. If your life depended on watching that breath, I guarantee you right now, you could sit there and watch every single breath. Any of you, for a short period of time. Even your life wouldn't be enough to keep it going long enough, all right? But you can do that. So at some point, you will understand it is important. It is my life. Otherwise, my life is scattered all over the place, every thought, every feeling, everything. Therefore, I'm going to watch my breath. Okay, there. Now, if you watch that breath constantly, relentlessly, all the time, until that is what you're doing inside as well as everything else, then you will never leave your center. There's this constant center that is never distracted fully from where it's sitting. That is the seat of self. That is the seat of awareness of being. It will always be there. It's the center. It's so neat because you have this consistency. That's what will take place. From that point, it all happens. So now let us imagine that you have achieved to this state. And from the time you wake up in the morning till the time you go to sleep at night, there is never a time that you are not aware of this constant, steady movement of the underlying flow of your breath. Therefore, there's not a moment all day that you're not aware. Because once it's steady like that, you're aware. Now, what's going to happen, because you have chosen to hold this fixed position within yourself, is you're going to notice that you get distracted pretty easy and pretty often. Why do you notice that? Because you're trying to not. Because you've decided to stay and watch your breath. Therefore, you can't let it. If you let it just distract you and go all the way out there, then you failed. You didn't watch your breath. So all of a sudden, you're going to have to assert will against the natural tendency. I'll call it natural. Natural doesn't mean good. Natural means habit formed, all right? The habitual tendency to have your consciousness drawn to the loudest object, to the most distracting object. You now have competition. You don't have competition now. Guarantee you right now, that consciousness is going to the loudest object, to the most distracting object. That's what it does all the time. If you choose to watch your breath and are serious about it, you now have competition as to where your consciousness goes. Because it has to stay there to watch the breath. And now you have these distracting things. We have ourselves a competition. All right, well, you have the right to win. How do you like that? You need to learn the tools and the techniques about that. Don't worry about it. You've learned them, about how to let go and how to do all the things. And what you'll see is you're sitting there and there are all these energies inside and outside that are distracting your consciousness. Look how many energies outside distract your consciousness. Kind of cute, isn't it? And you'll watch all this pull on your consciousness. And then you'll see energies inside that distract your consciousness. You have feelings, you have emotions, you have fears, you have anxieties, you have desires. You have all these different things that pop around in there. And when they move, consciousness goes whoop, 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 watches every one of them, pays full attention to all those things that move. It's pretty amazing, all right? And if you do that, then you won't stay conscious. And I'm going to tell you a secret, unless you're conscious, you ain't going anywhere. The entire journey is one of centering and ascending. The consciousness gets pulled back to its center, otherwise you can't go anywhere when you're scattered all over the place, can you? All your energy's out all over the place. Where are you going to go? The energies have to become centered, then they go up, really. So the act of watching your breath and going through this little struggle of being aware that something is trying to distract your consciousness away from what you decided to do, that's a good thing to do. That's a good one. That's you don't have to fight it, and don't judge. Just little by little, do it. And eventually you will do it, and it will be effortless. The fact that some of your consciousness, at least some, stays in the center and never ever leaves, does not mean you cannot live your life. It's just you have more consciousness than you thought you did, okay? And some of the stuff that you're not using does that. And it actually builds more consciousness. You have an unlimited amount of consciousness. Unlimited. You're so beyond anything you have any idea. The problem is you don't use it. You just focus on a few things and it scatters over here and it's thrown all over the place. Should you center and harness your consciousness and draw on your consciousness, you have unlimited amount of consciousness. So don't think that because you're watching your breath you can't take care of the kids. You can't go to school, or you can't go to work, you can't read books, you can't. It doesn't matter, even while you're reading, you just watch your breath. It just does it. They can do all of it. It's an amazing thing, consciousness. So when it's centered, now you'll feel the pull. I like that. You'll feel the pull of things that try to take it away from watching your breath. That's the beauty of centering, is you feel what's actually going on instead of just having it go on by itself. And you will see eventually, it takes a while, you will see eventually that you're in there, the breath is going on, the consciousness is centered, and there's all this Shakti in there that's going everywhere. And we talked about the fact that the main polarities inside of what scatters that energy all over the place are fear and desire. That's what you're going to see. I'll give it a million different names, but it's either fear or desire that's moving that energy. Either it's trying to go out toward something, or it's trying to hide from something. It's trying to protect itself, to draw within. Fear and desire. Those are the two polarities of the chi, of the Shakti, the yin and the yang, when it comes within the system. And then it just moves between those poles, and it does all that. As it's out there jumping around, look at desire, look what it is. Look at fear, look what it is. You deal with it every minute of every day. It's one or the other, isn't it? It's just adorable. And then your consciousness gets drawn into all that. Should you center, you'll just watch these energies moving around. Eventually, and it doesn't take long, but people understand, the outside world goes away very, very quickly. People think they struggle with the outside world. No way. Once you start doing this and watching what's going on, you will see that the only part that the outside world plays in this is a stimulus. That's all it is. It's really these fears and desires and all the Shakti dancing inside that is distracting your consciousness. That's what's doing it. The outside objects, when they move, they cause fears and desires to move inside. Right? Whichever way that object moves, either desire comes up or fear comes up at one level or another. Now, you don't call it desire or fear, you call it liking and disliking. That's just a milder form of desire and fear. So liking, dislike, even preference is really from the core of desire and fear. It's either drawing you toward it or it's pushing you away from it. And that's what liking and disliking do. That's what preferences do. That's what all this stuff does. That dance inside is stimulated by things outside. I'm just talking to you about what you'll see if you sit in there. You don't need a teaching. You're sitting in there. You'll see that. You'll see that the outside movement of objects cause inside movements of Shakti, don't they? All right? The energy moves inside. And I'll clue you in. If the energy didn't move inside, you couldn't care less what happened outside. That's what you have to understand. It's not the outside object that is desire or fear. It's the fact that energy moved toward it or away from it that meant you were desirous or fearful of the object. If I could push a magic button, and now when the object danced by, you did not feel desire or fear, what would you do about the object? Same thing you do with 800 billion objects that pass by you all day. Birds fly by and clouds go by and white lines go by and all kinds of stuff goes by. You do absolutely nothing. You would never think about it again. You'd hardly even look at it. There would be absolutely nothing. Even the most powerful outside object to you, if it did not move the energy inside, that's what it would be. And so you catch on, the outside's irrelevant. It is only relevant because it creates a stimulus to cause the energy to move inside. And it is the movement of the energy inside that matters to you. I'll prove it to you again. I just said to you, if an outside object moved and it didn't do anything inside, you couldn't care less. What if there were no outside objects, but this tremendous desire of fear came inside? Would that matter to you? Oh, yeah. You'd be running around the same as if there was an outside object. That's what paranoia is. There is no outside object doing anything. I got to make sure. Wait a minute. Nobody caught your attention if you have to go make sure. What's bothering you? I don't know. I want to take a look. Something wrong with that. It's supposed to be that there was an outside object that stimulated some disturbance inside. Now you know what's bothering you. If you're just walking around, you're pacing the floor, it's, what, George, what's wrong tonight? What's bothering you? I don't know. I'm going to go outside and take a look. I'm going to figure it out. That's a clue that proves what I'm talking about, right? The inner energies are what matter. If they move without the outer objects, you're just as messed up, aren't you? And if the outer objects move and don't move the inner energy, it doesn't make any difference at all. So everybody got that. All of a sudden, the outside is utterly irrelevant. It is the inside connection that matters. So when you sit in there and are centered, you get over the outside really quick. It doesn't mean you're done with it. You're not going to be done with the outside till you're done with the inside. Because if the outside's still moving the inside and you're freaked out over the inside, then you're going to be freaked out over the outside. But once you catch on that all that really matters is this dance of Shakti going on inside, there's this dance of chi, of energy moving from place to place inside and behaving totally different ways. How many different ways can the energy behave inside? I wish you could write an essay on that. When you watch your breath persistently and constantly and perpetually, you will be able to. Because you will watch every movement of that energy. Because that's what it takes to remain centered. Because those energies are going to tend to draw you away. But you've decided not to go. So all of a sudden now you notice all of them. If you just go with something all the time, then you don't know where you are and you don't know what it is. Should you happen to stand up against it, you're going to find out what's pushing you. Because you're there. Resistance takes place. So if you stand inside and decide to watch your breath, you will see every single energy that draws you away from it. What you will see eventually when you watch it is there is this dance of energy going on inside of you that is unbelievable. And it is going on inside of you with or without an outside world. You understand that, right? Doesn't make any difference. That's why, here, we'll shut off the outside world. Come in, sit down, meditate for 4 hours. No, I'd rather have my arms cut off. Why? Well, I don't think I have to give an explanation. Because the inside energies aren't so much fun to sit in, are they? All right, why? Because they are all over the place. They're like, you might as well go sit inside of a meat grinder to go sit down there. What is that? Those are your inner energies. That's the dance of the Shakti inside when it's not channeled, when it's not centered. So you get to the point by staying centered, and breath is a very good way to do it, that you start to see what's going on. You have this tremendous dance of energy inside that is unbelievably all over the place, and your consciousness is going with it. When you maintain your center, you now have a choice. You have a choice of whether to go with it or not. When you watch for a while, and it doesn't take long, guess what you decide? I ain't going with it. You will decide that all by yourself as a perfectly intelligent human being. Why? You'll notice that every time you go with it, where it takes you, you wish you had never gone. Every time. Wherever that thing takes you is away from where you want to be. And if you don't go with it, all of a sudden you realize, ooh, things are much better. You feel better because you stay centered and you didn't go on all these trips. So you learn to stay centered because the alternative is absurd. It is just absurd. As you sit in the center and the energies dance around, a phenomenal process takes place. If you stay centered and it pulls on your energy, your consciousness, but you maintain your center of consciousness, all of a sudden, magically, mystically, the energy that it was, the thing that was pulling, comes into you. Because you didn't go, you win. And somehow, over time, that energy that was so strong and kept pulling you away into fear or desire, whatever it is, because you sat centered, it surrenders to you and comes back to you. Now, eventually, it won't be mystical and it won't be magical. You'll see it as clear as you see the sun shining in the sky. That what is happening is that your consciousness is feeding those desires and those fears. You'll eventually catch on that the only source of energy in there is you. Now, I know that's mind-boggling because it seems like such a struggle and battle that's going on in there, where you are fighting with yourself. There is nothing else in there. And what is happening is your Shakti has gotten used to going out all over the place. And that habit of the flow, it's like smoking. You know, you're smoking, don't blame the cigarettes, okay? And you get in the habit of smoking, and it just keeps flowing, doesn't it? That's a pattern of Shakti. You have all these patterns of Shakti that you did. You permitted your energy to go out that way, but it's you doing it, not willfully. Master used to call it conscious will and subconscious will. You carve the pattern, and so your consciousness likes to go that way because it's used to it, and so it jumps that way very easily. When you now take conscious will and maintain centered by the techniques for something I'm talking about, now the rest tries to go out, but you maintain it. It will then pull back because you didn't let it go out. But it was always you. So I'm just saying, it's not like there's this other energy out there, and when you resist it, it's surrendered. I like that word. It surrenders and comes to you. It's just you not going out because you chose not to. And all of a sudden, what happens is all this Shakti starts to build inside of you, inside your center. So instead of getting more scattered, you become more centered. And every time you maintain your center, how? Watching your breath. You just watch your breath. You just stay centered enough to watch your breath. And now all of a sudden, the things that would have pulled on it, you don't go out. Therefore, all your energy starts to build inside. And this is yoga. This is the power of yoga. So two things happen when that happens. The disturbances and distractions quiet down, and the amount of Shakti in the center increases. But there's a reason for that. I told you that. Doesn't matter if you understand it or not. It's because it was your energy that was going out. Now your energy is not going out. That's why they go away and you stay. It's really neat. The formula is very simple, very beautiful once you realize it's all you. It is all you in there. There's nothing else going on. And so now as you center and it starts to build inside, it becomes a tremendous force inside. It becomes your force. Eventually, a channel of energy, very strong, is flowing up inside of you. Once that happens, once the Shakti turns up and it starts to flow inside of you, now what happens is any draw, including the creation of thoughts, including the creation of emotions, are against this upward flow of energy. Now there's no effort, no will. The energy turns up. It's now flowing up inside of you. Before, in order to get it to that state, you had to apply will enough to not let your consciousness go scattered out with the energies. You hold it in. Once you hold it in just enough, once you maintain it, center it enough, when the energy tries to get distracted to go out, you surrender and relax so that you don't go with it. You don't pull it back. You let go. Now that's a very big clue, or you will spend your whole life trying to control the prana, trying to pull the energy back. Well, first you'll try to get rid of the thing that pulls it out. Now, gross mistake, all right? Then you'll try to pull it back. You don't pull it back. You let go of where it's attached to you. In other words, you're sitting in there. The energies are getting drawn out toward these fears and desires out there. The wise being does nothing about the outside object that creates the fear and desire, does nothing about the fear and desire itself that attracts the energy and tries to pull. They sit in the center and relax where it's attached to them. There's a place in which your consciousness is aware of this energy pulling, where consciousness meets the energy. Right at that spot, you'll see consciousness gets drawn out with the energy. It doesn't have to. The consciousness can choose to let go. It just lets go. If you let go, you stay here. You stay where you are, because you let go of that which was pulling you out. I'll give you another example. Greatest yogic teaching there ever was. You ever do a tug of war? Here we got a tug of war. And what's going on in the tug of war is there's this big pile of mud in front of you. One of those kind of tug of wars. And you got this big old rope, and you got a whole bunch of people behind the pile of mud, and a whole bunch of people on the other side trying to pull your butt into the pile of mud. Now, there's two ways that you don't end up in the pile of mud. One is you hold on to that rope with everything you got, because it's trying to pull you. And you hold on, you dig in, and you fight, and you pull, and you hope you're strong enough to keep that rope from going in that mud. There's another way, the yogic way. You let go of the rope. And if you let go of the rope, guess what happens? You don't go in the mud. You stay right where you are, because you release the force that was attached to you from pulling you, didn't you? That is what you do inside. You sit in the center of consciousness and you notice that each of these draws toward desires and fears and all this stuff is a rope that's tied to your center of consciousness. You just let go of the rope. That's your path. You let go of the rope. Because you are not holding onto that rope. You don't realize it. God, it's so subtle that all I can give you is the clue. You sit there and say, but I don't understand. If I let go of the rope, all that, you remember, Mickey, you said all that Shakti was going to come back into me, a wound. It'll all go out there. No, you don't get it. In this little tug of war, you're both sides of the rope. You're literally out there pulling yourself into the mud and fighting yourself from pulling yourself into the mud. You're everything. You're the only thing in there. That's why when you let go, it just all collapses back into you. It doesn't go off somewheres. You're it. I guess if I use master's terms, your conscious will is fighting your subconscious will. Your subconscious habit form will is what's making the energy go out, and your conscious will is pulling it back in. Okay? Just don't play. Take your marbles and go home. All right? And what's going to happen is, because you let go at such a deep level, all the energies stop going out. And when they stop going out simultaneously, neither the conscious will has to fight it in, nor will the subconscious will go out. It's such a beautiful thing. That's why surrender and release is the highest path. If you fight it, you lose, because you're really fighting yourself. And you don't have to pull it back in. Just don't play the game. Let go. Just boop, just like that. It feels just like the rope. Let go. That's what it does. Let go. All right? And it goes like that. All those energies will come back in you. That's your game during conscious will time. Once enough of these energies come in and stop going out, they will start to go up. And once they start to go up, it's not an act of will. Once they start to go up, they form a force that pulls all energy into you. It's like a vacuum. It just starts pulling all the energy in. You actually have trouble having thoughts. When thoughts try to get created, they go and they pull back in. Because the pull of the Shakti is so strong inside from a center that your thoughts can't go out, because energy has to go out to create thoughts. And they pull back in. It's okay, you'll learn how to do both, but that is a natural process that takes place. It's very easy where it goes, I wish, maybe there's nothing, the thoughts don't even finish. There's just not enough energy for them to go out before they get pulled back in. Now your energy really starts going up. This is your spiritual path. It's that easy. It's not a complicated thing in any way, shape, or form. There's nothing to it. All you had to do was breathe. You're breathing already. As the consciousness builds its center, it's like getting onto NASA's launch pad. You feel all this energy build inside of you, all by itself. There's nothing for you to do. It will take you on your journey. That's your whole path. It's not about all these decisions and all this stuff and all this guilt and blah, 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 blah. It's all about centering the consciousness and letting go. Centering the consciousness and letting go of the draws and pulls that are trying to draw the consciousness out. Why is that hard? It doesn't take complex things. Now the question is, do you want to do that? Or do you want to get involved in the outward movement of the energies? That's why really there are no teachings about should I or shouldn't I, or what's this or what's that. The very fact that you're asking means it's already a mess. The question is, do you want to go with these fear and desire energies? Do you want to go with these outward movement or withdrawing, blocking inside or drawing out energies? What you don't understand, and I will never discuss it with you, I always say that and it happens, is even if you decide to let go, it doesn't mean nothing happens. All it means is you're not involved. And that's very, very deep stuff. The leaf falls from the tree and it dances on its way down. I assure you that leaf is not deciding what to do. The forces that be are moving the leaf. The leaf is completely surrendered, and as such, it is in harmony with the winds and with gravity and the other forces of nature. Should you let go and become this upward moving center vacuum, then you're not a force that's interfering with nature. But that doesn't mean nothing happens. It means nature happens. There may be children, there may be marriage, there may be this, there may be that, there may be billions of other things, just like there is falling of leaf. But you're not having children, and you're not getting married, and you're not this, and you're not protecting the home and from the snake or whatever the heck's going on. It's just happening. Now that's the hardest thing for people to understand, because if they want to do is make decisions of good and bad and right and wrong and better and worse and should and shouldn't, that's because they have all this conflict going on inside, and what they're trying to do is balance the psyche, right? By feeling, well, tell me what to do so I can do it right, because I don't want to feel guilt and fear and decisions, and I have a lot of trouble there. That's fine. Go about your business. Eventually, it's okay that it's not now. It's fine. Eventually, that's not what will go on. Eventually, the only thing you will ever do and the only decision you will ever make is whether right now to let go or not. There will be no other decisions. None. It's just down to right now, in this moment, if there's energy pulling out or repelling, for or against, are you letting go or are you getting involved in it? That's simple. And if you constantly let go, you will be shocked to see that your life still goes on. Until you've done it, you can't cross the other side. It's just impossible for someone to comprehend. It will still go on. It may not even be a perceivable difference. There may literally be nothing that changes outside. Nothing. Maybe your thoughts won't even change. Maybe nothing will change. But there's a big difference. You're no longer the doer. It's very similar. I once gave you, the closest example I could give you is, let's say you were born into a society who thought they had to breathe. They thought that unless they did this, it didn't go in. Didn't go out. In other words, you had to do it. And your parents taught you right away, quick, do it, okay? You're going to die otherwise, right? And you were taught, and your parents were taught, and your grandparents were taught, and their grandparents were taught, and everyone in this world, that's what they're taught, is you do this. And medicine shows you how if you ain't breathing, you ain't living. You're taught that very early. You know, it's a matter of life and death. You do this. So every single person goes about their business willfully breathing. So it might be the conversations go like this. George, I think, if I want to do, maybe, and everyone's like that. And it's totally socially acceptable because we want to live, okay? And so, you know, and some people do it longer. Oh, he's a good breather, right? Some people do it shorter, it'll last long, right? And they even have actuary tables that show that if you do it longer and slower, you live longer. And if you just do little short ones, okay? Now, if you grew up in that society, and all of a sudden someone came in and said, you don't have to do that. I have to do what? In and out thing you're doing. You would take them by the hand, you walk in, what are you, crazy? Here, doctor, come over here. You tell this man what's going to happen if he stops breathing. Okay, and they're going to give you all the data and all the statistics and show you everything that possibly be what's going to happen if you stop breathing. And you're sitting there trying to say, I didn't say I was going to stop breathing. You say, yeah, you did. You say you don't have to do this. They wouldn't even be able to comprehend the possibility or the subtleness of the fact that you weren't doing it, but it still went on. Why would they believe that? Net is, you are not going to stop breathing. That is exactly what has happened here. You think that you have to live your life. You think that it is these desires and these fears. The fears are keeping you safe and the desires are letting you have some stuff. They're keeping it going. This concept, this leaf falls off this branch and it blows in perfect harmony and there's still marriage and there's still divorce and there's still this and there's everything still goes on. But you ain't in there being the doer. That's as foreign as not breathing. There's no way that you're going to comprehend that you can just step back, lay back into God, and that all this will go about its business and do a better job than you can. That's the difference. That's the difference. You work with it little by little. Little by little. You decide each moment, do I or do I not believe I have to go with this thing that's drawing out or this thing that's drawing in? And you start experimenting with releasing the energies. And eventually it'll become so beautiful inside that you couldn't care less what happened outside. Maybe that's what it takes. Maybe it just takes that you become so peaceful and so beautiful inside that you don't care if you die, if you stop breathing. You say, this is too beautiful. It's constantly being interrupted to do that breath, and it's so beautiful in here, and so you just take the risk because you don't care. And then all of a sudden your breath keeps going. And guess what? It's not a relief because you really didn't care. Maybe that's what it takes for you to be willing to sit in there and say, so there's a desire. I've been there, I've done that. I'd rather have my peace. I'd rather sit inside and feel this beautiful Shakti than anything that can give me. So there's this fear. I'd rather have my head cut off at any point or any time than to have to worry about anything. Because worry is endless, isn't it? Endless. There's so many things you can worry about. They start and they never stop, do they? If that's how you want to live, then buy into fear. Because it just generates all the things to worry about, doesn't it? Maybe you could take the attitude, I don't care what happens. If I got 1 minute without all that going in, I'll trade it. And you take that risk. And the next thing you know is you're still there. And you've transcended fear and you've transcended desire. That's how you do it. But first, this whole process has to happen to where you're centered, conscious, so you can watch these energies draw on you and you can choose to let go. As you choose to let go, the energy builds up inside. The energy builds up inside, it starts to change directions. When it changes directions, you have ecstasy flowing up inside of you at all times. All this light and love, and it's your choice. Go out there with fears and desires and anxieties, or sit in ecstasy. Let me see. All right? And you just choose to always feel love, and you choose to never let go of that flow of the Shakti. All right? And then the rest of this happens. And then basically, eventually, you realize you don't ever have to play with these things, ever. Your life will go about its business, and it will do what it's doing. And that's just what it is. So, this is transcendence. This is the path. This is yoga. This is all of deep, deep truths. Work with these things. See what happens to you. Jai Gurudev.